Welcome back to Wild Woman Podcast. We have Amie Barsky here today with us. Thank you, Amie, for joining us and for saying yes. I did not personally meet her, but we were at the Convergence Remembrance Sacred Sun Retreat in Seattle, Washington, 4 days camping in Brennan near the beautiful waters and mountains. So I sent out an invitation and she said yes.
It can be that easy.
Right? That's it.
Life can be that easy.
Thank you. So go ahead, introduce yourself and tell us what you do and where you're from.
First off, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, to share, to just be in your space. And yeah, I reside in Encinitas, San Diego, California. And my name is Amie Barsky, as you mentioned already. And if you were to give me a title, I'd say it's a nervous system and trauma-informed master coach. I basically help women with confidence to move through burnout, overwhelm, overthinking, overanalyzing, anxiety, and past traumas so they can finally start to feel good in their bodies, so they can let go of that need to hustle and push and prove that they must produce more to be of value in the world, because that is so far from the truth. And yeah, so that's what I'm up to these days. And it's such a joy to serve in this space. I work with women one-on-one. I have group events all over the world. And it's something that I am in full service of. Like, I'm fully committed to this journey because it has impacted my life greatly in my own journey. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you so much. So I have a beautiful altar here for you, in honoring you, in honoring your beauty and your process and your bravery and your story. So I have a beautiful candle here from you, some stones, and a beautiful little thing I got from Greece of this little goddess. So this is just in honor of you. And let's go ahead and start with a couple of breaths to land and ask Spirit to guide this conversation, and just thank ourselves for being willing to share. Just take a couple of deep breaths in and out. Let's land. Let's ground. Calling in our guides and our guardians and Spirit to guide this conversation. Thanking Amie for her bravery and stepping forward to share her story and being of service to other women. And asking Spirit that this conversation will be guided and flow, that what needs to be felt and what needs to be said and what needs to be heard and what needs to be shared will be. Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So let's go right in. And we're going to go deep. The intention of this podcast is to allow the women to be vulnerable and to share their story, and just to be of light to other women that are going through the same thing, that feel that there is no hope, or that no one understands, or that they're the only one, that they're not alone. So Amie, if you wouldn't mind starting off with, what is your greatest wound?
That's a big question. And I feel that no human on this earth escapes trauma, period. And keeping in mind that trauma is an energy in the body. We measure it in our mind. Oh, that's a greatest wound. That's a tiny wound, or what have you. But the truth is, the body doesn't decipher it like that. It simply goes, oh, what's happening? Survival mode. And it shuts down. So if I were to label one of my greatest wounds, I would have to say it was when I realized 24 years after the incident happened, my mind and body brought me back to that incident. And then I got to start healing it. So to unravel that a little bit, about 8 years ago, I was ready for partnership. I was already quite a few years out of a divorce. I had done a lot of inner work already. I was excited to create a really healthy relationship in my life. And so I was dating this wonderful man, and I started having flashbacks. Right previous to that, about 3 or 4 months previous to that, I was having physical pain in my body, right in my left side. And I summed it up to, oh, I was a Pilates instructor. I was teaching yoga. I was teaching like 20 something classes a week. I just assumed I pulled a muscle. And I went and got x-rays. I did some MRIs and nothing was there. And so anyway, this pain, I was doing my best to deal with it. And then memory started coming through. And I was floored. I had zero clue because our brains are so smart to protect us that my brain deleted this memory from my mind to protect me at the time. So basically at 19 years old, I was never the popular kid in school. And I was never hanging out with the cool kids. I was bullied a lot in grade school. So I started to isolate myself around, I'd say like 14, 15 years old. I just started to shut down. And at some point, graduating from high school and being on my own and just starting my own life and all of the rebellious things that I was doing at that time, my friend invited me to a fraternity party. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the perfect time to fit in with the cool kids and see what it's like to be in with the in crowd. And so I went to this particular fraternity and I poured myself a beer out of those, red cups that we all are probably familiar with. And I really didn't drink a whole lot. And I was dancing, I was enjoying, I was having fun. And the next thing you know, my limbs were heavy and my eyes I couldn't open. And I was in a room. And again, I didn't know this at the time. I only knew this from the flashbacks I had about 8 years ago. So I remember from the flashbacks I had 8 years ago that I couldn't move my body. And I remember the friend that took me to the party busted open into this room that I was in, grabbed me, pulled me, and we went to the car. And I stumbled down the stairs. I was very confused. I was very out of it. I basically went home. They put me to bed. I was living by myself at the time. And I woke up the next day and I had the worst hangover imaginable. And I stumbled into the bathroom and I did my morning business, right? And I peed. And as I went to get up, I saw a condom hanging out of my body. And I collapsed. I pulled it out and I was like, oh my God, what happened? So I knew in that moment that I was raped. And I literally fell to the floor. I remember just curling in a ball, crying my eyes out, feeling so confused, feeling so like I couldn't remember anything. It was just all a blur. It was such a blur. And so to not remember anything, then I got like riddled with shame and guilt. I'm like, oh my God, it's my fault. I did this. I had a drink. I maybe drank too much. And I started putting the blame on myself. And in that moment, I just said, you know what? I can't tell anyone. No one will ever understand. I don't even know what to tell because I can't even remember what happened. So this never happened. And I shoved it under the rug and I left it there. And that's all I remember. So basically, as the flashback started coming through, 24 years later, I was floored by that this was happening because it put a big wrench in the relationship that I was trying to build with this new relationship. And it was really, it's been an interesting journey to say the least, to unpack. When I look back at the thread of my past relationships, my marriage, how I treated men, what I believed, that men only want one thing, that I'm only good for one thing, the only way to get love is to give sex, just all these stories, all these limiting beliefs that possibly came because of this experience. Now, if I really look back previous to that, my first boyfriend cheated on me at 16 years old. So there were different other seeds planted, around men and the story of men and that story of like my worth. However, this I'm sure had a huge impact as well. And so, that was something that really awakened me into understanding that the body keeps the score, that we can do all the mental gymnastics we want around limiting beliefs and positive affirmations. And there's value there for sure. It's not to negate that. But if we don't bridge the gap between our head and our body, our head and our hearts, and understand that our body's a living library of everything we've ever experienced, then we're doing ourselves a disservice because we're not going to get the long-term change that we desire. the long-term healing. We're going to put band-aids and band-aids and band-aids on things. And so, yeah, that was a very big wound that opened up many, many, many decades later that I have been working through. And it's like an onion, peeling it back layer by layer, little bit by little bit, and working on myself and my worth around men. And that's why, one of the biggest reasons why I went to that Sacred Sons event with you. Because I wanted to be, I've done a ton of sister moon healing and sister circles and really nurturing the relationships because I was bullied as a kid by mostly girls. And so I feel like I've done a lot of work around that, but working more deeply with men and really understanding them, what they desire, what they want, what their thoughts are, what they worry about, how they navigate relationships, and how can I be so authentically honest with my past, my choices, things I've done. That to me has been the game changer, to own it and to be able to voice it and share it and not worry about if I'm judged or not around it.
Wow, thank you.
Because my recovering people pleaser, wants to make sure I look like the good girl and I've got it all put together and I'm perfect. And I'm perfectly imperfect.
Absolutely. Yes, you are. And thank you for sharing that, because that is a very vulnerable share, and quite, I'm sure at some point was embarrassing for you and hard for you to talk about this in open, or, especially on a podcast that we're going to share, and I feel that the more that women can be brave like you and come out and share these uncomfortable, embarrassing, painful, traumatic stories that happen to us, that it will shed light onto other women and give them hope. So thank you for being that beautiful light of hope for somebody that is listening, and you, I'm sure, igniting somebody to also share their story. That's the beauty, I think, in sharing, is that we expose ourselves, and others feel also comfortable where they can also be exposed and feel safe. So thank you for that. And I wanted to ask you about when you started having the flashbacks and all of this started to resurface, what was your first step into taking action into getting to the core of this and healing, and how did you start?
Luckily, I had coaches in my space already.
Okay.
So I started working with some Reiki healers for the energy part of it. I started working with trauma coaches to really help me unpack the shame and guilt I was holding. So those were my first steps, really working with the truth of what happened as much as I could remember. And honestly, the memories, because I started to question a lot of it, like, well, was it more than one man? It was at a fraternity. I mean, what do I know? And I started really playing the game of like wizardry. Like, okay, I want to know more. I want to know, like the scientist. I want to know more. However, sometimes I got caught up in my mind, and I got caught up in playing stories that weren't actually facts. And so I was really encouraged to be with what felt in my body versus trying to make up stuff in my mind to make it logical and make sense and figure it all out. Like I was trying to, I was a puzzler trying to put all the puzzle pieces together. And it really didn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Yes, our mind, I get that we want to put our mind at ease and understand things, but we're spiritual beings. We're energetic beings. So if I can just work with my energy, and if I can simply be with where is it taking up space in the body? Where's the shame? Where's the guilt? Where's the self beat up? Where is that playing a part? And working with that was the biggest stepping stone that's gotten me to where I am today.
And in how you described feeling the pain in the left side of your body, tell me about that. And how did you start feeling better? Like, what did you start noticing in your body as you were dealing with these things?
Well, I was working with a chiropractor as well, who had a very huge spiritual based background. And so it felt really aligned because we did feel some tension in the muscle, in the psoas muscle. And so I would work with that particular area of my body to help soothe it. And again, like I said, I was working with a Reiki healer who was doing energy work in that area. And, I was simply being with what is and doing the unpacking of somatic practices to help me move this energy out, to help me not have to carry this load anymore, to not let it define me and who I am as a woman in the world. So yeah, it
Right.
was
Yeah,
basically
absolutely.
it was a team effort for sure.
Absolutely. And you being ready and willing and brave and knowing like this is not going to be easy or it's going to be uncomfortable and being willing to go there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Out of all of this, what is your favorite act of self-love
Favorite
for
act.
yourself?
There's so many. Honestly, watching the sunset every night, as
Mm,
much as I can. I live very close to the beach. And so if I can get my butt up there and just be with my feet in the sand and just soaking up the sun and doing some beautiful, gazing into the sun and allowing myself to be filled with
mm,
energy from Mother Nature, that to me is a huge act of self-love. My morning practice, most recently, and it fluctuates. It's never the same because we're evolving human beings. So if you have a morning practice or a self-love practice and you notice you've done it for a while, it's not working anymore, then try something else. If
mhm,
we're evolving, it's like saying the babies need different food than adults need, right? We evolve, we grow. So my morning practice most recently in the past few months has been really dedicating, I say 33 because it's one of my favorite numbers. So 33 minutes to myself. So whether
mm.
that's sitting in breathwork or meditation or journaling or just quiet time for myself, whatever that can look like. Those 33 minutes are for me.
Absolutely. And do you notice the the change in your body or your day or your week when you can't commit to the 33 minutes or like, you skip a week? Like, what does that look like?
Well, there's a few things I really want to speak into here. This because we can tend to self beat up, right? Or
Mhm,
I'll speak for myself. I
mhm,
can beat myself up because there's a perfectionist part of me that
mhm,
wants to get it right, that wants to make sure I'm doing all the things. And so I get to be super mindful. And if that sounds familiar for someone who's listening, like be super mindful. Are you beating yourself up because you didn't get to do the dang thing? Like just get back on track. That's all. So for me, when I can't do it, I don't there's days I'm sure that there's a different shift in energy. Maybe I'm not as clear minded. Maybe I'm not as patient. Maybe I don't feel as grounded or calm. Sure. Is it super noticeable? I'd say more when it's several days in a row. If
mhm,
there's several days in a row that I'm not pouring into my own cup and I'm giving out and I'm giving out and I'm pouring out and I'm running on empty,
mhm,
absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Firm believer that there gets to be a give and take. And especially as women, we nurture by nature. So we want to give, go, 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 people please, and be the good girl and show up perfectly for everybody, our people, our spouses, our partners, our children, our businesses, whatever it might be. We
mhm.
want we want to be that best friend. And I get that. That makes sense. But at the cost of what? At the cost of your own mental and emotional well-being? I'm a no to that.
Absolutely. And you can see the vibrancy and the shining, not just the sun behind you, but in you, like your eyes, in your skin, in just in everything as you're just sitting there. It's just you can see that you're pouring into yourself because you're just illuminating this beautiful light.
Thank you.
So
And honestly, like at 51 years old, I have never felt so vibrant, so energized, so alive, so clear, so connected, so in ownership of like who I am in the world and not apologizing for it anymore. Like
great.
it's amazing. Like,
I,
I think 51 is the new 21.
you are rocking it, girl. I
Thank
love
you.
it. You look amazing and you can see and you just feel amazing. You can
Yeah.
see it in everything. And I love that you said your age. I love it. Thank you. Because all of us are like wondering, like, how old is she? And how can I be that like that at 51? So
We women are so. I have a friend who is completely embarrassed to tell her age. She's the same age as me.
mhm,
She will not. She has been hiding it for years and years and probably her whole life. Now, coming from an entertainment business background, like I was a professional dancer, I was an NFL
Right.
cheerleader, I was an actress in the business. Like, you did not tell your age at all.
Mhm.
You played the card of, 25 to 35. Like, that was the thing, and that was it. Like, you just never peeped a word about your age. That's just the way it was. And after I started retiring from that business and not walking that path anymore, I was like, you know what? If I'm supposed, if the greatest breakthroughs can come from ownership of our lives, like ownership, responsibility of who we are, the choices we've made, the experiences we've had, then age gets to come with it. Like, it's a part of who you are. If you can't accept it, then you're denying it. And if you're denying it, then how can you live so vibrantly and feeling fully alive and authentic if you're hiding this aspect of you, this truth, And it
And
is just a number.
and wisdom is gorgeous. Like, the older you get, the more
Mhm.
aged and the more wiser we are, and the more we have to offer and share and
Mhm.
just be of an example, And I think that's wisdom is beautiful.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, how did you come about into finding your service, and what is your calling?
Well, because I was doing my own inner journey of healing my wounds around childhood trauma, around sexual assault, around, my stories around men and how I thought they were the enemy, I began to recognize how important this work is. And I was sharing it with anyone and everyone I could, because it was making such an impact on my own life. And the more I did, the more people asked me, are you a coach? Like, what do you do? Like, what are you doing? What's happening? You're just on a different level. You're vibrating and you're just feeling really good. I want to be around you more, And the more that came in, that was a reflection.
Mm.
I started going, this is something I'm interested in. Do I want to walk this path of being of service? And the answer was yes when I sat with it. And so I went through tons of trainings. I worked with top trauma coaches and somatic coaches, and I'm a breathwork facilitator. And I love to learn. I'm actually getting trained in sound healing in a few weeks' time. Like, I'm just so enthralled in understanding the human design, the human experience, understanding that we are souls wrapped in this skin suit called a body. And how can we nurture it the best way so that we live from a place that feels vivacious and alive and energized? And so this has set me on my path to go, okay, I really want to work with other humans who are in similar experience that I was several years ago, because I feel like our greatest teachers are ourselves and relationships, right? And so my relationships have taught me so much, whether it's romantic or, platonic. And I want to continue to be of service and help women get through their challenges, especially when it comes to overwhelm and overthinking and burnout and people pleasing. I was such a people pleaser, and I still have my moments. Like I said, I'm still human. However, we are, as women, we live in a society where we're trained to people please, to be the good girl. And it's not doing us any service. And I'm a firm believer that the paradigm is finally shifting. Yes, I am a firm believer that women deserve to feel respected and equal pay and right to vote, all of that. Yes, yes, yes. But we as women as society have swung the pendulum so far in the other direction to fight for our freedom and our rights and all of that, that we fall into this masculine energy of go and do and push and prove and be like men. We're not. We're not men. We're just not. So taking that ownership of, you know what? I do want to feel my feminine essence. I want to connect to my feminine energy. I want to feel the flow and the creativity and the pleasure and the bliss and all the yumminess that life has to offer from that gentle, softer approach. And so for me, shifting out of my masculine over the past, I'd say like 5 years of really tapping into my feminine, it's been really fun. It's definitely has its challenges. However, the benefits of being in this place now feels so much different because my nervous system can actually rest. My nervous system isn't on
Yeah.
constant, like, oh, gotta get everything done. And there's tension in my jaw that used to be there. There's tension in my
Mm.
stomach, my anxiety, which is light up my belly. And it was just so uncomfortable. And I'm not playing that game anymore. And this is how I support women as well. So they don't have to play that game either.
Thank you so much for that. That is just like so much gold right there, you know, and being okay in to say no and to be in your feminine and things that are no longer okay with us, that are just not settling anymore, and just walking in that, and that we don't have to be, you know, the male role.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
thank you for
And it's not to say that there's not a time for it, you know, especially if you're a woman who runs a business or
right.
you're a woman who runs the family, right? There gets to be that efficiency leadership, which is generally a very masculine energy to get shit done. There is a time for that.
Yeah.
And because we exist in both ways, we hold a masculine and a feminine energy. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here as humans the way we are, right? We come from the masculine and the feminine. So how to create the harmony? I don't like to say balance because I don't know if there's necessarily a balance. I think it's the harmony of when to ebb and flow into more feminine, into more masculine, when to ebb and flow into, you know, maybe you're in a partnership and you know, and that is a male partner, and he gets to provide that leadership, and you're not always in the control, in the driver's seat. You get to let him lead so that you can soften.
absolutely, absolutely. And talking about that, let's go there with convergence.
Yes.
What did that do for you? Like, what made you say yes? And walking away, what did you take home?
You know, so what made me say yes was kind of what
Mhm.
I talked about earlier,
Right.
is I was ready to do work with men. I've done a lot of women work, sister circles, all of that. It's beautiful. I love it. And I was ready to be in the presence of men who were also doing the work. I was very curious and wanting to unpack my wound that they were the enemy and I was blaming them. So that was one of my major reasons of attending this event. What I walked away with, what I learned is a couple of things happened. There was a particular experience where it was day one. And, on day one, things were a little scattered. People were flying in from all over the world for this event. Like, it was beautiful and it was a little disorganized in the very beginning. Rightfully so. They're
Mm.
organizing 400 people. And so we all got into a circle where it was the co-ed circle. There was about 60 of us because we broke up into groups. And we were doing this particular exercise. And they said, okay, men stand on one side, women stand on the other side, and partner up with somebody. And at that time, people were shuffling about, that not everyone had a partner, self included.
Mm.
So I didn't have a man standing across from me. My person next to me was eyes on this dude, this guy, what have you. And I was just standing there and I felt really flustered. And I thought, being a facilitator myself, I was like, Amie, you're a student here, be a student, get in a student mindset, take off your coaching hat. And so I was doing my best to do this. However, I'm like, how do they not see that I don't have a partner? And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, okay, they're going to ask, hey, who doesn't have a partner yet? Raise your hand. They didn't. And so I started like really getting flustered because my perfectionist part was coming out, like, get your shit together. And luckily, the man who was next across from me, he noticed. So right now we were just doing eye gazing. I was like, okay, fine. So he was eye gazing with the woman next to me and myself. So I really felt like, wow, good for him to acknowledge awareness, be aware of his surroundings, and to include me. And I felt so held and it felt really special. Next up, we were going into prompts where you would talk to your partner. And I'm like, great. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Amie, why aren't you asking for what you need? Why aren't you using your voice? Your people pleaser of being the good girl is totally online right now. So I was like, what are you doing? So they presented the prompt and I was like, wait a minute. So I raised my hand. I'm like, hey, I don't have a partner. Luckily, one of the facilitators jumped in with me and I was so grateful. It was so beautiful. And so he jumped in. We were doing the exchange. It was beautiful. It was perfect. And then he walks away. And I'm thinking, okay, well, he's going to come back because he knows I don't have a partner and he's facilitating. So of course he has to walk away. Okay, great. So another prompt comes in and no, I have no one to talk to. So now I'm getting even more flustered. So I raised my hand again and I said, hey, I don't have a partner. And so a woman facilitator steps in and my shit hit the fan because my ego, because I was here to do effing work with men. And how dare they put a woman in front of me? Like I was just pissed off. Like my whole body was like, my jaw was tight. I could feel myself fuming. And the prompt was something like, share with this person something you don't want them to know, something you're afraid for them to know. And again, I've been in this work, I've been in rooms similar, I've asked my clients similar questions, and generally speaking, they go into something deep, like a childhood wound or, a sexual assault experience or whatever it might be, something deep and, that could create, or maybe that's holding them from like feeling fully alive, or maybe they're holding shame or guilt around it. And so she shares her thing. And I look at her and I'm like, Amie, are you going to speak your truth? Or are you going to just pull something from your past? And it's all, there's not right or wrong, good or bad. I don't believe in that. There's simply cause and effect. And so I leaned back and I said, hold on. I took a breath and I said, I'm going to share what's really present and alive for me right now. And I said, I'm pissed off that you're a effing woman standing in front of me and I'm here to work with men. And I'm really frustrated because I really feel, what's the word? Dismissed. I really feel unheld and unsafe in this container. And she simply held space. She was so beautiful. She simply held the space. It was really lovely. And she completely understood. And then we went on to the next prompt. And then the exercise was pretty much over. So what I learned was to use my voice. What I learned was to not let my people pleaser or my good girl constantly run the show. Now, what I also learned is I probably could have said it in a less aggressive way. And I spoke my truth. And I shared that. I said, this is simply how I'm feeling right now, And later, luckily, and again, I got to use my voice and I chose. Luckily, I did bring it up. And I brought it up in the collective, which was something that was very challenging for me to do, to take ownership in that way, not just a one-on-one. It's a little bit easier to have one-on-one conversations for me, but to be in a collective and share that. And similarly, what I was feeling and how I felt dropped and how I felt, that like, is this a safe place? Like, what's going on here? And I was totally received with love. I was totally received with acknowledgments and gratitude for the share. And I didn't expect that either. I was like, oh, I'm going to hear some flashback, what do you call that? Flashback. Is that a word?
Flashback. Yeah.
I don't know, something. And it was really received well. And I'm so grateful. And so really learning to use my voice in a powerful way in a group setting, and I didn't die. Like nothing happened, I was nervous. Sure. I was sweating. Sure. Was my heart pounding? Absolutely. And I got to speak up. And so if somebody here is listening to this and they're thinking, wow, I want to speak up for myself and I want to use my voice more and I want to claim my space in the world, start with small conversations that you want to have with people that you've been holding back some stuff. I call them clearing conversations. And when we have those kinds of conversations, it gets to start from your side of the street, not from blaming. Well, you did this and you did that and it's all your fault. This is how I felt. This is what was coming up for me. And I want to share that with you because I have a feeling that wasn't the intention, or whatever the situation is. Just share from how you felt, what came up for you, what you maybe made it a story about yourself. And I made that mean that you don't love me, or I don't belong, or you don't want to be my friend, or whatever the story is. Like, just be honest, And I think when we are honest with ourselves and we're honest with other people, we don't have to carry all the shit on our back. It doesn't feel so heavy. And what happens when you practice that over and over and over again, like I was talking about earlier, how your body keeps the score, it keeps the track record of everything. Your somatic body starts to ease and doesn't feel so tense and tight and nervous when you're about to say those things. It's much easier for me to speak now from my heart, from my truth. And that's when the nervous system is going, oh, I've got my own back. I'm not self-abandoning anymore. I'm not self-neglecting. I've got my back. Whatever I say that is true for me is valid, period, regardless of how someone else may receive it.
Wow. Thank you for being so honest about that circle experience, because I think a lot of
That's okay to share.
a lot of us had those similar experiences. For me, at one point, I was not partnered with the gazing, and that made me feel really uncomfortable, but it pushed me through to feel uncomfortable and to catch the story that was being written in in that moment, and really just it's so amazing how so many things that happened that weekend for a lot of us were just so perfectly divinely planted and were supposed to make us feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one thing I really want to go back to the conversations that you get to have to clear up some stuff. Make sure you're not heated. You're not you're not in it. It's not on the surface. And so before I had a conversation with some of the facilitators about this, I gave myself, I think I waited about 36 hours, definitely 24 hours. And I think it was later that following night. So it was a good amount of time for my nervous system to discharge some of the energy. I went and did some stomping. I went and did some journaling. Like, I took care of myself first to make sure it wasn't just a projection of a bunch of crap on somebody else, so, and getting clear with how I wanted to share from a very authentic place.
And thank you for that golden nugget that you just shared right now on how to do it with grace and what you did for yourself to 36 hours, whatever, how many hours it takes to take care of yourself. So you're not coming back with the heated and the pointing the finger and all the stirring, stirring.
I mean, can you imagine if you see your phone ringing and it's your friend or your spouse or your partner? So oh, hi. And all of a sudden they're just projecting a bunch of crap on you. Well, what happened? And why did that happen? And they start yelling and screaming. What do we do as humans? Defend. We put up our dukes. We put up our walls. The armor goes up. And then there's no listening happening. Zero listening is happening when someone is coming at us. Zero. So that means it's just two people doing this.
Absolutely.
So really acknowledging, like, okay, this is my shit, really. Because if someone's triggering you, it's your stuff. It's not their stuff. It's your stuff. And your trigger is your soul saying, hey, this is here. You want to look at this? Do you want to take a look at this? Because on the other side of this is your freedom. On the other side of this is your vibrancy. On the other side of this is your joy, your abundance, all the things that you desire in life.
I love that. And give us a little secret tools of your own that you do when you're triggered. Because a lot of us need some tools.
You want to laugh your ass off. Okay. So I teach my clients this all the time. And again, one, create a safe space. Like, know you're going in to process stuff. And two, create privacy if you can. And basically what I'm going to share with you is giving yourself a tantrum, just like kids have tantrums, right? Kids have tantrums. That boy took my toy, or mommy won't give me a cookie. They have a tantrum. Generally speaking, when we're in that heightened experience, it takes about 90 seconds to complete the cycle. But we as humans, we're in and out beings, right? We drink water, we pee it out. We eat food, we poop it out. We feel emotions, we suppress it down. We don't let it out. So if you're feeling something and you're in a place to actually allow yourself to express it, I call it a tantrum. So a tantrum for me generally looks, and I laugh about it because I used to use just punching pillows and things like that. And I had so much anger and rage. And I actually learned through working with some of my coaches that it was generational stuff as well. So it wasn't all mine, but I needed something heavier. I needed just the punching of the pillows wasn't enough because I was it was just so tight in here and it was so tight in here. For those who are listening and not watching, I was talking about my fists and my jaw. I'm not sure how you're recording. Anyway, so I get a frying pan, a clean frying pan. Please don't use a dirty one. Your shit will fly all over the house. I get a clean frying pan and I hold it together with two hands, like kind of like you would hold a baseball bat. And then what's really important in your somatic body, soma means body. So in your system, in your nervous system, to fully unleash the beast, because we all have a beast inside of us. We all do. I don't care. You can deny it all you want. It's true. We are animals. We are primal. We're just standing upright. That's it. So basically, you want to take it, you want to open up overhead and then hit. And I hit the bed personally. I like the bed. My bed's high. It works for me. You can hit a couch. You can hit, I don't know, an ottoman. You can get on your knees and do it that way. But I stand next to my bed and I put on some crazy, like Rage Against the Machine music, like just heavy, like, just, music that I would generally probably not listen to. And I just unleash the beast within. I go for it. I freaking go for it. And I'll just slam down on the bed. But the key is to open up and then go down, open up and then go down. So you're opening and closing, and you're opening and not closing, but allowing, moving the energy out of the body. Now, often when we are physically moving our bodies like this, I encourage you to use your voice, because a lot of times it's stuck here. We can do the physical movements, but what's happening here? So say words, say F you to whoever, whatever. Say, just scream and shout, like, grunting is a beautiful way to move energy. Just use your voice and open up this stuff here. And then once you're done, you're complete, or you feel the cycle, okay, because you get exhausted, right? Once you're done, stand upright and be in your dignity. And almost always, look, I feel some energy moving right now. Excuse me. It comes through in belches for me.
I just
did. Once you're finished, stand upright, because you're going to want to collapse because you're tired, but try to stand upright. Try to stand upright. Length, width, and depth, like really be in your body. And almost always then emotions will flood. You'll start crying. You'll start like I had the ugly sobs about 5 days ago. I was having a moment and I was letting my shit go, and just like all of it was just happening. Right. And so allow yourself, try not to hide your eyes, because that's shame. Once we hide and start doing this, that's an internal signal to their shame. We're not supposed to let ourselves be seen and expressed. We're not supposed to feel our emotions. So do your best to stay open as much as you can. And then once you've completed the cycle, I encourage you to drink lots of water, do some journaling. What did you learn? What came up? And I'll give an example of what came up for me. This was many, many, many years ago when I was doing this particular exercise, very similar. I was using my fists. And at the time, I had a photo of my ex-husband, because I was processing some stuff around the marriage. And as I'm hitting the photo and hitting the pillows and doing all the things, what came up for me was truth. Because at some point, the ego starts to take a back seat and the body just starts to do its thing. It starts to unleash that beast, that energy inside. And it became so crystal clear that I was not just mad at him. I was mad at myself. I was so angry with myself. And the image came through of the awareness. It wasn't an image, the awareness of oh my God, I'm angry at me. It came through that I literally stopped my process and I was like, oh my God. And then I just started going again, going, oh my God, I get to move this energy too. I had no clue that I was that angry with my own self and the choices I made and all the judgments I was having around it. So that opened up a can of self-forgiveness. I feel like women, we have an easier time forgiving others. We can justify why it was done. We can understand it. We can be so loving and caring about it. But a lot of times when it comes to ourselves, we're a lot harder on ourselves. So that self-forgiveness process started getting unpacked that day and then moving forward.
I love it. And the way you described it, it's like sacred rage.
Yes.
There's a way
Great word for it.
There's a way to heal through the rage. Rage is not shamed. Rage is not bad. And thank you for giving us that beautiful example that is just golden. And it probably costs a lot of
money. Frying pan.
Learn that in your workshop. Thank you for that, because that is just something that I'm going to use with my kids.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Get the pan. Let's go to the bed and let's take let the monster come out.
So many of my clients that have children, we have created a safe space in their home for them to experience their emotions, to let go of what's there, knowing that it's safe to go, this is what's coming up. This is how I feel right now. And even if they can't name it, is it sadness? Is it anger? Sometimes they don't even have that concept yet. That's okay. Do you want to go stomp it out, stomp your feet, stomp on the bed, whatever it is, just give them an opportunity to be with it. Because if they don't, what are they doing? Suppressing it, pushing it down, avoiding it, feeling it's not safe.
Do you feel like what you're doing right now for your service is your dream job?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I ran a workshop just a few days ago called Rise Beyond Burnout. And we did a lot of somatic work, and we did a lot of understanding of the mind and the body and bridging that gap. And I left on a high, and it just felt so beautiful to witness these women who are committed to their journey, committed to their healing, committed to themselves, committed to their children to not pass down the cycles, right? To be the cycle breaker. To also, you probably know this, 7 years previous, 7 years forward, right? We're healing generational stuff too. And so to see that, to feel that, to be able to guide that, it's such an honor. It is such an honor. And it just fills me up. And I'm usually riding a high for like weeks afterwards. So.
And the high
You're
is,
getting the residual of that right now.
Yeah, and that's what I could see in you, is like this beautiful glowing. And the high that you speak of is also your higher self. Like, yes,
Absolutely.
this is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
And this is what you're called to do. And just like being so tapped in, and in that is just, yes, absolutely, this is your dream job. I'm so happy for you, Amie. This is beautiful.
Thank you.
A lot of us spend lifetimes searching and coming in and out of jobs and corporate and figuring out in relationship and kids and just, life. And it takes us lifetimes to learn these things, or to discover and find our soul calling. So I see you, sister.
Thank you for seeing me. And it doesn't have to, though. That's the thing anymore. It doesn't have to. We live in a time where technology is at our fingertips. We live in a time where information is at our fingertips. We live in a time where anything is possible. And so we don't have to live by society's rules anymore. We don't have to live by the paradigm that has been built and infused into our ecosystems internally. We get to break those belief systems. We get to break that paradigm and create something new for ourselves. It's all available. It's a matter of choice.
Yes.
It's a matter of choice. Am I willing to choose to step outside the comfort zone and try something new? If I want to be somebody different, I've got to do something different.
And transformation is never comfortable.
No.
Rebirth is never comfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. It's dark. And I think the bravery and the knowing that you want something, just you desire something, a shift and a change and a move and something different, is that ultimate decision. Like, are you ready to get uncomfortable?
Yeah. And I feel that there gets to be a point, and I feel like this is where I'm at right now. And maybe that's just today because I'm riding the high. I don't know, but there comes a point where, because you're in the work and you're quote unquote used to the discomfort, it gets easier. Because you know what it's like to be in the discomfort. And so therefore it doesn't feel as uncomfortable. It's like when you're taking a medicine, maybe that tastes awful. Well, maybe the doctor said, take it for 7 days. And by day 3, you're like, it's not so bad. Right? When this is what I call, you build the body that can hold the discomfort. Like our nervous systems we have a tolerance level basically. And so in our tolerance level, most of ours is like here. And we want to expand the tolerance level. Why do we want to expand it? Because I don't know about you, but I want more of lots of things in my life. I want more abundance. I want more pleasure, more joy, more adventure, more travel, more sex, more orgasms, more money, more fill in the blank of all the things that bring joy into my life. I want more of that, but I can't hold it yet because I'm only used to holding this much. So if I keep expanding the tolerance level of how much I can hold, when things show up that are challenging, I can hold it. It doesn't feel so, it doesn't throw me off center as much. I don't throw and spiral into a state of overwhelm for 17 days because I don't know what steps to take next and I'm stuck in overthinking. I don't get stuck in freeze state because I know how to get myself out of it because I've got tools in my toolbox and I know it's temporary and I know what's possible on the other side. So as much as in the beginning steps, you know, it can feel very uncomfortable. And the more we do it, the easier it gets. So it's that practice of being in the discomfort, going, I'm going to try something new. Like even today, I did an IG Live. I haven't done an IG Live in ages. And I was a little nervous. I was like, how is it going to go? You know, like we're human.
Yeah.
So we're building the capacity to hold more in life. Whatever more you want of, you've got to be able to build up the system, the ecosystem internally that can hold what comes with that.
I feel like I just did a workshop with you and you just like shared like so many golden nuggets.
Yay! I
am
love it.
so honored and blessed. And everyone that is listening, I'm sure just listening to it, people are going to go home and practice these things.
Amazing.
So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your wisdom, Amie. Like you are tapped in and you have discovered the secrets to life. And thank you for sharing them with the world, because that is a true medicine woman, when we can heal ourselves and then just reach out our hand and say, here, come. You can also have this freedom.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful that you are sharing this with the world and that you are just so vibrant and glowing. It's just, come on now. People are gonna be reaching out to you and be like, I want to know how you did it and how do they look and feel like you.
Please reach out to me. Please reach out. You know, social media is amazing because it connects us with people all over the world. You know, podcasts like this, wherever we go on the different channels that we have to connect to other epic human beings. What I really want to share is, please don't use it as a television. Let's not just watch. Like, use it as a telephone. Call me, meaning DM me, find me, send me a message, like literally connect. I'm here to connect with humans, not just to be a walking billboard of something, but to actually feel your heart. Maybe even send me a voice note so I can hear your voice, and like DM me on Instagram. It's the easiest way. I'd be happy to have a conversation. I'd be happy to see if, you know, if there's a possibility, if you want to go deeper in your journey or just to be friends, just want to be friends. Like, seriously.
Thank you for that beautiful invitation. I agree. And this was the intention of the podcast, was to get people networking and reaching out to each other and hearing stories and being vulnerable and being ignited to share their own. So just like a whole beautiful webbing and weaving. And thank you for being a part of this, Amie. And thank you for being a part of this, just this whole movement. You know, it really is a movement right now of what's going on, of, you know, people waking up and people wanting more and people saying no and just taking those steps. And they're not really that, you know, drastic. They start simple.
Small steps, small baby steps. You don't have to change everything in your life. Just change one thing at a time.
Beautiful. Last thing we're going to close with, what is something your little girl always wanted to do?
Oh my gosh. Did you see that? It's just totally
so cute. You got like so excited right now. I love it.
I love the circus. I love the circus. I thought if I could have another dream job, it would be to be a performer in the circus. To be, and mind you, I mentioned earlier, you know, I was a professional dancer, entertainer, all the things. However, so I wouldn't want to be like a aerial artist, even though that's so beautiful and I absolutely love it. If I were in the circus, I would want to be the lead. Usually there's like I've been to a lot of Cirque du Soleil shows.
Oh my God, I love those.
So there's usually a female lead and a male lead for the most part. And so I would want to be the female lead, and they get to play together, and they're kind of like the clowns. Like, they're funny, but they're informative, and they're kind of guiding the whole experience. That's what I would want to do. Just make people laugh and just be silly, and be the ring. I guess we call it a ringleader of the circus.
And I feel like you're doing a little bit of that in your services that you're sharing with the world, you know, like really being the conductor of like, no, let's break that cycle.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That was fun, and that's so beautiful. And the simplest, like the simplest things, and the profound healing that we find in joy, in laughter, in being playful, in tapping into our little girl, I think is so important as well. So thank you for that.
Our inner child never goes anywhere. They're always there with us all the time. So she gets to have a voice. They get to have a voice. They get to say, they get to breathe, they get to express. I do a lot of inner child work with my clients, and it's so much fun because they come alive like this. They literally come alive and online.
Like what? What was the question? What's the practice? And
Right.
really, like our soul's been calling and needing it.
Yes.
You can see, yeah, the transformation. Thank you so much. So give us your handle and give us your upcoming offerings, or like kind of your regular things where we can find you and reach out to you and be a part of you. So just
come
go
on
ahead.
into my community, please. So the easiest way to find me is on Instagram at Amie Barsky Coaching. And I, as far as offerings go, I have a really cool 30-day program. It's an intro to your nervous system to help you understand why you're stuck in fight or whatever survival mode, or whatever we call it parts work, whatever part of you is trying to run the show, like your people pleaser, your good girl, your perfectionist, all of those parts. This program is 30 days. Remember earlier we talked about bite-sized pieces? This is a bite-sized piece to help you start to understand and unlock those patterns. So that's kind of the easiest way to start working with me. And yeah, I do local events in my neighborhood here in Encinitas. I travel all around the world and do events. So connect with me and through IG, send me a DM, say, oh my gosh, I heard you on the Wild Woman podcast, and let's just be friends.
Awesome. One last thing. What is something that is you've been doing or tapping into your naughty side, but that feels so good?
My naughty side, meaning
Yeah.
like,
Whatever that means to you.
well, I feel, and I can only speak for women because I'm a woman, or I identify as a woman, self-pleasure practices are very important. Self-pleasure practices. So whatever that means to you, whether that's having a pleasure practice that is dancing sensually in front of the mirror and moving your body, and you're in your birthday suit to really just be in your animal body, or is it a self-pleasure practice that brings you to climax? Fantastic. Like whatever that is for you, like give yourself that chance to get to know your body, how you move, what feels good. You know, we're sensual and sexual beings, and women have suppressed a lot of that for many, many, many years. And so you get to be with that.
Thank you so much for that. That is so
Permission slip granted.
right. Permission slip granted. Go be naughty in the mirror, naked. In primal movement and sacred rage. It's allowed.
Yes.
Thank you, Amie, for everything. You are just so beautiful, and your soul is just shining, and we want to just learn how you did it. So thank you for coming here and sharing so many just pieces of wisdom and golden nuggets. And like, I feel like, what the heck? Like, we need to be making donations because you gave us so much golden nuggets.
I'll receive. I will receive. You know, this, I've been working on receivership for the past several years, because when we're an open channel, like receive the penny on the floor, receive the door being held open. Last night, I literally received a package of tomatoes for free at the grocery store.
Really?
They weren't scanning, and I'm like, oh, maybe they're free. And I said that to the guy who was helping me try and scan. He goes, you know what? Today they are. And he put them in my bag. And I said, I receive.
There you go. There
So
you
we get
go.
to receive all the things that the universe has for us, because the more we receive, the more we get, the more shows up on our plate.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and close, and we'll just a couple more breaths and just thank ourselves, and thanks for everyone who is here. Thank you, Amie. Thank you, everyone who has watched. Thank you for our guardian angels over here and guiding this beautiful conversation and allowing to come through what came through. And thank you for the radiance and the glowing of Amie that is going to touch someone out there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Anytime.
We're going to stop recording.